Howdy, 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 my name's Anachi Sasuke. Welcome back to Let's Read the SCP Foundation Wiki. In the last episode, we ended with more horrifying babies. Hopefully it's gonna be a while before we have to deal with horrifying babies again. Maybe we'll never have to deal with horrifying babies again, and that would be pretty boss. So we're gonna start with the palm tree, and we're gonna go up to the telepathy virus. I almost said telepathy. That's not right. Okay, so. It's Euclid. SCP-401 is to be kept in a enclosed courtyard at site someplace. A mural of the landscape of southern France is painted on the walls of the courtyard. Does southern France even have palm trees? Once daily, personnel are to locate at least 10 roots which will be fed a total of 15 liters of nutritional supplement 401NS4 and to remove any solid waste produced. An EKG is to constantly monitor 401 for any anomalies. Refer to Incident 4011 for details. Female personnel are not to enter the courtyard at any time between March 15th and April 1st under any circumstances, so it's safe now, but not then. SCP-401 was discovered near the French city of someplace when agents responded to reports of the ground bleeding. When led to the site, investigators found a human moth embedded in the soil, licking away the remaining blood with a long prehensile tongue. It was not until a week later that agents realized that the mouth was part of the root structure of what at first appeared to be a 40-meter tall dead eucalyptus tree with branches shaped like multi-jointed human arms. Ugh. The white color of the trunk originally suggesting that the tree was dead was found to be because the bark was made of human bone tissue. It was given SCP status and excavated from the area to be transported to site someplace. SCP-401 resembles an ordinary tree in form and function. However, human physiology is substituted for plant biology and the fulfillment of necessary processes. The trunk is supported by multiple vertebral columns, but woven together by tendons and muscles coated by a layer of rough bone tissue also held together by flexible tendons. As one goes higher, the trunk will split repeatedly until there is a single vertebral column supporting the rest of the structure. At the base of the trunk are several human hearts, which pump blood and nutrients throughout the roots and branches. The roots themselves are esophagi, protected by a layer of cartilage reminiscent of the trachea. At the end of each root is a fully formed upper and lower jaw, complete with muscles, lips, and the prehensile tongue first witnessed by agents in the field. The tongue seems to be used as a digging implement and as a snare for food, ranging from burrowing animals to edible fungi and plants. All of these roots ultimately lead to a single stomach. This, along with a fully functional, though unusually long, intestinal tract, work to absorb ingested nutrients. Solid waste is eliminated through a sphincteral orifice on the side of the trunk. No roots are found in the area immediately beneath this spot. The branches, as initial observations suggested, are human arms. They extrude themselves from the bony trunk but have no bark themselves. Some will split at the elbow so that they have 2 or even 3 forearms. The palms of its hands all face upwards, and the tip of each finger has a human eye growing from it. The iris of each eye is hazel. A section of the eye shows that they are all myopic, though they do react to light stimuli as a normal eye would. Though the chemical process is not yet understood, the retinas carry on a form of photosynthesis which transforms carbon dioxide and water into oxygen and glucose. It is generally agreed that the eyes are myopic in order to prevent excessive damage to the retina from direct sunlight. Chemical analysis of the lung show that there is a higher oxygen content when 401 exhales than when it inhales. During spring, 401 will go into bloom. Though it is genetically a human male, it will grow female sexual organs. The vaginal openings are located on the palms of its hands, with canals extending 18 centimeters along each wrist to a bulge which contains a fully formed uterus and ovaries. 5 days after the formation of the organs, menstruation occurs, at which point male sexual organs begin to develop in their place over a period of 10 days. Once fully formed, they will remain for 1 day before they are shed and eaten by the roots. During this phase, 401 will attack human females for the purpose of reproduction. Experiment Log 4011. The fact that 401 is genetically human, combined with the violence exhibited against women during its male phase, suggests that it may be compatible with human beings. A number of breeding experiments have been proposed to test this. Date: blankety blank blank. Subject: disposable dudette, number 2055. 2055 was artificially inseminated with material produced from 401 during male phase. The product of this was allowed to gestate. 9 months after conception, 2055 gave birth to a normal human male infant. Though healthy and lacking in any unusual physiology, the child has been found to suffer from severe myopia comparable to what was estimated with the eyes of 401. The child has since been adopted by Agent Somebody, who has agreed to bring them to the Foundation-approved doctor for monthly physical examinations. Let me just go ahead and check what that is, because I'm not sure what that is. Light can't focus on retina, causing faraway objects to appear blurry. Lack nearsightedness or lack of imagination. It's probably nearsightedness. Okay, so the kid's really nearsighted. Disposable Dude number 2067. 2067 was ordered to donate genetic material which was used to artificially inseminate 401 at the beginning of its female phase. This was allowed to gestate. 12 hours after insemination, the uterine bulge in the wrist increased in size by 300%. While the other branches continued to develop normally for the next 2 weeks, the inseminated arm retained its uterine bulge and vaginal canal. 24 hours prior to maturation of male organs, the uterine bulge began contracting until a mass of tissue was extracted from the palm. This was shown over the edge of the courtyard by the arm which had given birth. The appendage was then shed and absorbed by the roots minutes later. After 5 hours of searching, personnel found the item which was thrown, a human urinary bladder with a fetus nestled inside, consistent with one that had been gestating for 2 months. The bladder was planted in soil. It germinated 2 days later and became a seedling, equivalent to 401 in structure. The organism died of malnutrition 1 week later, despite being fed nutritional supplement 401 NS3. Okay then. Female D-Class Personnel 2081. Procedure: an egg was removed from their ovary, fertilized with genetic material harvested from 401, and frozen until next spring. The fertilized egg was implanted into 401 and allowed to gestate. Details: data expunged. Nutritional supplement 401 NS4 has been formulated with its development in mind. Incident 4011. On blankety blank blank, several of the 401's branches went into convulsions and then went limp. It was soon discovered that one of its hearts had suffered cardiac arrest and was not able to recover. An angiogram of the other heart showed large amounts of plaque buildup. Since 4011, the damaged heart has been absorbed and new hearts have grown in its place. It used to say, in order to maintain the future health of 401, a lower cholesterol nutritional supplement 401 NS3 has been approved. Now it says nutritional supplement 401 NS4 is now being used, following the results of experiment 4013. Wonder what that did. A palm tree. Oh, I get it. A palm tree because okay. I was wondering, like, that doesn't sound anything like a palm tree, and Florida doesn't have palm trees, but I understand now. Now it's time for the Obsidian Absorber, which is also Euclid. SCP-402 was kept in a climate-controlled storage locker at Site 41. All known as 402A, and all water affected by it, currently 200... Sorry, misread that. 612,000 liters are kept in a climate-controlled freezer at Site 41, with each sample wrapped in... Okay, I don't know if that picked up, but on my end a bunch of police cars just went by and wasn't sure if it would be too loud. With each sample wrapped in a barricade tape to prevent accidents. 402 and 402A must be kept away from all water, including water vapor, outside of testing. Substantial quantities of 402A may exist outside of containment. All unusual drowning or suffocation deaths must be investigated for possible 402 involvement. Mobile Task Force Tau 4, Water Everywhere, is tasked with performing all testing, investigations, and retrieval missions associated with 402. 402-1 is kept in a Type 2 humanoid containment cell at Site 59. Why is it a humanoid? Oh, I guess 1 is not 402, 1 is probably something else. 402 is an irregularly shaped solid weighing 4 kilograms. While 402 is composed largely of obsidian, trace amounts of platinum and iridium are present. 402's structure has numerous abnormal microscopic gaps, similar to those found in 148. Along with 402's anomalous density, 22.2 grams by centimeters cubed, roughly 8.5 times that of obsidian, suggests that the two materials operate under similar principles. Any water that comes into contact with 402, hereby A, develops antimemetic properties, effectively rendering it imperceptible by any direct means. Witnesses typically interpret this as 402 absorbing the water. A can be detected through its interaction with other materials, which occurs normally. What is going on outside? Now there's fire trucks, ambulances, and police cars. It's It's raining! How is something on fire? Whatever. Water rendered imperceptible by 402 can transfer... Oh, I missed some things, sorry. A can be detected through its interaction with other materials, which occurs normally. For example, the dissolution of salt in A presents as the disappearance of the salt. Scales and thermometers that detect A's weight and temperature, respectively, can be read normally. Items that float in water will appear to levitate when placed in A. Water rendered imperceptible by 402 can transfer its effects to other water. For every unit of A that is introduced to a body of water, an adjacent 11,000 units, give or take 500, are similarly affected. This is perceived as the rapid, spontaneous disappearance of the affected water. A does not present any risk of a chain reaction. However, due to the current natural currents, 402 itself can create large amounts of antimemetic water very quickly when submerged, particularly in moving water. Consumption of A presents a serious choking hazard, as its presence in the trachea does not trigger the laryngeal spasm responsible for sealing the airway. A's presence in the lungs is only detectable via the resultant oxygen deprivation, and is typically mistaken for other medical conditions, which prevents proper treatment. Safe handling of A can only be performed by trained personnel. So, 4021 is a human, roughly 35 years of age, that was in the possession of 402 at the time of recovery in blank Indonesia, as well as a plastic jug containing 4 liters of A. One has refused to cooperate or communicate with Foundation personnel and has not been identified. Prior to containment, one would consume A to the exclusion of all other liquids, which says, this was accomplished safely via a tube inserted into the esophagus, resulting in the illusion that it did not possess any body fluids and giving it a desiccated appearance. This was initially mistaken for a property of 1 itself, with the true nature of its condition and the anomalous nature of 402 only being identified after careful observation. One's appearance returned to normal as A was flushed from its system. One's blood, when composed of A, possesses cognitohazardous effects when consumed in any quantity. Subjects will become convinced that any water they encounter is an extension of effectively infinite subterranean body of water, in which they risk being trapped should they come into contact with the water. This results in severe aquaphobia, as well as a fear of drowning that persists even in situations where no water is present. Testing the anomalous properties of one's blood has been deemed cost ineffective. As such, information on its effects have largely been garnered from one's pre-containment activities. Note: several subjects who had previously consumed one's blood displayed a strong fear response when exposed to SCP-109 and SCP-812, though none were able to justify their reactions. Further testing is under consideration. What's 109 again? Oh, the canteen. Right. So, next up is the Escalating lighter. Well, it's safe because it's a lighter. 403 is to be sealed in a steel sealed in a steel safe with a combination known only by Dr. Somebody. The walls of the safe must be reinforced with fire-retardant material complying with Foundation Standard C-3403. The safe will remain under surveillance by 2 armed guards at all times. So, it is a visually unremarkable naphtha-fueled lighter that was discovered in a cafeteria site someplace. When lit once after a prolonged period of disuse, it produces an ordinary flame. However, if ignited repeatedly within 24 hours, the flame produced becomes larger and more violent in nature with each subsequent ignition. During an experiment with a disposable dude test subject attempted to light it a 3rd time within 2 hours, resulting in a powerful explosion of superheated gas and plasma. This event destroyed the monitoring equipment within the testing cell and caused significant damage to the flame-resistant plating lining the walls. Despite this, the subject and the item itself remained virtually unharmed. Radio imaging has shown the formation of a magnetic field around the lighter, which is hypothesized by researchers to be the cause of this immunity. The fuel used by 403 to produce the detonations is not known as of yet, if any conventional fuel was used at all. Examination of the item shows that the fuel compartment within 403 is empty. No traces of any combustible compound have been found. Considering this, and the amount of energy initiations are capable of producing, 403 should be currently treated as if using a functionally inexhaustible power supply. Tests to ascertain the exact nature of this power source are ongoing. Addendum 1. Continued experimentation has been authorized for 403, and a designated safe detonation area has been provided for testing. After the 3rd ignition, a disposable personnel attempted a 4th, which caused an explosion that initially appeared to be a thermonuclear blast. Evaluation of the explosion has demonstrated that it was of equivalent magnitude to 10 MT of TNT, I guess that's megatons, far exceeding the blast of most strategic nuclear weapons. This yield was also far greater than the extrapolations based on past testing to suggest. Further study of recorded data seemed to show that the event was actually caused by the release of data-expunged stellar material. No abnormal lasting effects from the explosion were observed apart from the devastation wreaked by the initial blast. Once again, the subject used to ignite 403 was unharmed by the blast. Addendum 2. All further tests have been suspended due to the extreme danger presented by the high energy detonations it is capable of producing. As it seems the power of 403 increases exponentially, a fifth ignition could result in an event comparable to data expunged. A blast of this magnitude could devastate vast portions of the continent and prevent a severe risk of breaching the containment of several Foundation sites, including redacted. It was last revised. This page was last revised on July the 24th of 2017. Interesting. Now, memories lost, memories found. Which is safe, whatever it is. SCP-404 is to be kept in Section Alpha 1 of the documents repository. Any movement of 404 beyond Section Alpha 1 will result in die. So, it is a pair of large manila envelopes, one of which has a series of pages attached to the front. Each page is stamped with a name, date, time, number table, and contains multiple entries with known and unknown names. The ink has been dated to 1833, give or take 10 years, and the folder dated to 1834, give or take 10 years. Many signatures are noted on the grid, notably those of former document repository administrators, blank, dated blank blank blank, blank, dated blank blank blank, and blank, dated blank blank blank. All signatures are also followed by a numerical reference number. Currently there are over 1,000 signatures on these pages, with an additional pages appearing on their own when the previous ones become full. A count of these pages has proven impossible, as has the contents of the envelope as mentioned later. Contained inside 404 are a series of large 8x10 photographs. Attempts to count the exact number of photographs has thus far failed. When a person attempts to count the total photographs, they will invariably get a number wrong at least twice and have to start over. If more than one person attempts to count them, they will begin to debate on what number they were at last and start over. If a mechanized system is used to count the photographs, it will either glitch, fail, freeze, or skip, causing a recount to be required. Any person may pick up and access the first envelope, known as A. Okay, I read that right. They may withdraw a single photograph at any time from the envelope. This photo will always be blank when drawn out, and will remain so until 5 seconds have passed. Should the photo remain in contact with the person who drew it longer than 5 seconds, it will then begin to fade into an image in the same way a Polaroid develops. This image will be a crystal clear image from an event in the holder's past, which thus far has always been immediately recognized by the holder. Once this photograph has been developed, it will no longer fit into A no matter what effort is applied to it. This image will fit perfectly into the second envelope, B. An undeveloped photo will not fit into B. After a developed photo is placed inside B, the pages attached to the front of the envelope will update themselves with the name, date, time, and an incrementing number. If a person picks up B, they immediately know which pages contain the lines with their name, although they may not know the numbers. When they have viewed the numbers, or if they already know the number, they are able to draw the photo out that B was with only a few seconds of searching. The most disconcerting feature of B is that once the subject has left the presence of the envelopes for longer than an hour, they forget interacting with either envelope as well as the memory imprinted on the photo. This effect lasts until the subject re-enters the presence of A or B, at which time they regain their memory of having used the envelopes, but will not remember the event on the photograph until it is viewed again. Researchers who oversee the testing of A or B, but who do not interact with the contents of the envelope, are capable of remembering both the test and the image to the best of their natural memory allows. Document 1. Subject is a disposable dude who has been instructed to draw 5 photos from A. First photo contains a young girl on a tire swing being pushed from behind. Confirms that the girl is their younger sister at age 6. Second photo contains an image of the same girl, now older, nude in a bedroom, lying on a bed and smiling, wagging a finger at the viewer. Subject confirms once again that this is their sister and is noted becoming distressed. Third photo, same girl, older, in the garb of high school graduation, with her arm around a male similar age. Confirms that this is his sister and the boy is her boyfriend. Seems agitated and reluctant to continue until assured he must only draw 2 more photos. Fourth contains the image of the car that's gone off the road. The windows on all sides are smashed and the driver door is open, and the driver's seat is the same boy from the previous photo with no discernible age difference. There is considerable bodily damage on the boy as well as a slit throat, so that confirms this is the same boy. Fifth photo drawn shows a funeral setting. The girl from the previous photos is in the center of focus. She's wearing a black funeral dress and has a hateful expression. Subject confirms that this is his sister again. All photos drawn will no longer fit into A, so are filed inside of B. Subject's name, current date, and numbers now appear at the topmost sheet of B. After the test had completed, the subject was allowed to leave the testing area and then questioned about the photos. After a time lapse of approximately 1 hour, they became unable to answer any further questions about the photos and denied having ever even been a part of the test that day. They are unable to account for the time spent in the testing chamber and also denies knowledge of ever attending a funeral with his sister for any individual. Up until the time threshold had passed, the subject had been willing to answer any and all questions regarding the incident in the photo. Loss of memory attributed to the interaction with A and B. Okay, 2. The subject is Dr. Somebody who has recently been through an overly dramatic breakup of a relationship. She has volunteered for this test and has been informed of the anticipated results. The first photo develops into the image of a young man in overalls leaning against a car and covered in oil stains. She confirms that this is her ex-boyfriend and he was mechanically inclined. Second photo shows the same man in a very angry state, postured as if he is striking the viewer. Confirms again that this is the ex-boyfriend and is part of what led to their separation. Third photo from A shows the same man in an amusement park setting, seated on a roller coaster beside the viewer. Confirms this was their first date. Fourth photo from A is completely blank. Twice the normal time is allowed for the photo to develop. For a photo to develop passes and it remains blank. The photos also returned to A with no effort, while all other photos must be inserted to B, which now shows the subject's name with 3 new timestamps and numbers listed on the pages. After the fourth photo was drawn, subject was released and approached 3 hours later, where she was asked as to the status of her relationship with the boyfriend. She denies knowing any such person or having ever participated in any tests today. Subject is also unable to account for lost time, but shows no concern over the disparity. Dang. Document 3. Subject for the test is Dr. Someone. Dr. Someone was chosen at random and with no end result expected. First photo drawn is a first-person perspective of a water paint portrait being drawn. The artist's hands are visible in the photo, and Dr. Blank confirms this is her at age 4. Second photo is of an elderly man smiling. Photo perspective suggests the viewer is being raised up into the air looking down at the man. Doctor confirms this is her grandfather who passed away approximately a year and a half later. Third photo is drawn after a brief reprise to allow Dr. Blank to collect herself. This photo shows the funeral service, and the perspective again suggests the viewer is a short individual. The doctor confirms this is her grandfather's funeral service. This photo also shows the elderly man again at the headstone, which is the viewer's point of focus in the photo. The elderly man is marginally out of focus compared to his surroundings, which are crisp and clear. In addition, he is semi-transparent to a degree of approximately 15%, suggesting that his presence is either a true spectral manifestation or exists only in the mind of the viewer. The doctor has requested a copy of this third photo, and a digital copy was created for her without incident. The original has been filed into B, and the copy is framed in Dr. Blank's office. Okay, so that sounds like her grandfather showed up as a ghost that only she got to see. Document 4. Subject for this test are Doctor and Doctor, who have been working together for the past 2 years. These 2 doctors were chosen at random from established pairs of staff who have been working on projects together for over 1 year. Doctor draws the first photo from A. The photo, when developed, shows an older woman in her mid-30s on a bed nude. The woman is posed in a data expunged position from the viewer's perspective. The doctor identifies this woman as his wife. He attempts to protest this photo until a photo is produced from Dr. Blank's wallet, which confirms the identity of the woman in the photo. The guard on staff intervenes in the escalation of tempers and informs both doctors to continue with the test. Personal matters will be resolved afterwards. Dang. Someone draws the second photo from A. It is of note that Dr. Blank's expression was malicious towards Blank after the previous photo. The photo drawn by Dr. Blank develops into a girl of young age who appears to be in a data expunged pose from the viewer's perspective. The girl is confirmed as Dr. Blank's daughter, who is data expunged years old. Tension in the room escalates after this photo once more, and the guards on duty step in again. Due to the nature of the photos being drawn, only 2 more, one from each doctor, are requested. Dr. Blank draws a third photo from A. This photo contains an image of the same girl from the second drawing, nude again, in a new pose. The doctor reluctantly confirms that this is in fact his own daughter. Both doctors are calmed down by this event, however both appear to be extremely uncomfortable and express repeated desires for this test to end. Dr. Blank draws the final photo for this test, which after developing appears to be Dr. Blank wearing an evening dress. Okay. The test is immediately ended by the administering personnel and both doctors are placed on notice until the results of the test can be confirmed. A lapse of a full day's time was allowed to pass before either doctor was confronted about the previous day's test results. Neither doctor claims to have any memory of participating in any test nor any inappropriate behavior with each other or any of the subjects from the photos. All photos were filed in B and both doctors have been restricted access from 404 from here forward. Continued observation of the doctors from this test show a 6% increase in productivity. This may or may not be related to the loss of the memories exposed in this test. So it sounds like, let's see if I can understand this right. The doctor with the shorter name has a picture of an older woman in her mid-30s on a bed nude. The other doctor identifies the woman as his wife. The first doctor tends to protest this till photos produced from that one's wallet, who identifies the woman in the photo. Okay, so it sounds like they were both with the same lady and the one didn't know that it was the other one's wife. Okay. The longer named doctor draws a second photo. It is of note that that his doctor was malicious towards the first one after the previous photo. The photo drawn by that one develops to a girl of young age who appears to be in a blank pose from the viewer's perspective. They are confirmed to be the first doctor's daughter, who is blank years old. Okay. Shorter named doctor draws image of the same girl nude again in a new pose. Reluctantly confirms that it's his daughter. And finally, the long named doctor draws a photo for the test, which after developing appears to be the short named doctor. So they had relations with the same woman, and then they had relations with the same daughter, and then they had relations with each other. Okay. Subject for this test is the deceased Class D personnel who was expired while engaging in the testing of SCP something. The body of the subject was manipulated by 2 members of staff in conjunction with medical implements to draw a series of photos from A. The first one develops into a view of that SCP at rest. It is assumed this is what the subject saw as the testing was commencing. Second photo drawn develops into an extreme close-up of that SCP. The nature of the photo suggests that this was the moment at which the subject expired. The right side of the photo was blacked out as expected from a scene viewed by a person with a single eye. Third photo develops into data expunged. Test aborted immediately after viewing of the photo since staff manipulating the subject's body into a state of rage. Guards enter the room to control the situation. One guard enters the same state as the research staff and turns on another guard who is restraining the original test members. Additional armed staff enter area and developed photo was covered by jacket to prevent further viewing from any other staff. After the events of this test, any further exposure of the deceased with 404 has been expressively forbidden. All staff who are involved in the test were restrained in solitary confinement and after 48 hours were given a psychological evaluation and released. Those who requested amnesiacs were allowed to utilize them. All photos made during this test were not filed into B, but were instead sequestered into the care of Dr. Somebody, and are not to be accessed by any staff without maximum clearance. And that brings us to the Telepathy Virus, which is currently Keter, but designation downgrading to Euclid pending response planning and efficiency review by blank. So let me drink some water first. Infected subjects are to be contained at SCP-405 isolation zones. The zones exist in depopulated areas. All field teams encountering 405 are to be informed of the locations of nearby isolation zones. All observation of 405 victims is to be done via video link from a distance of no less than 1 kilometer. If a subject suffering from 405 is in the late stages upon apprehension, they're to be terminated and all individuals within 200 meters are to undergo treatment protocol 405 Alpha if an isolation area cannot be reached in time. Treatment protocol 405 Alpha is also to be used on any individuals found in the preliminary stages of 405 infection. 1 are housed at research facility in the desert. On no account are individuals suffering from 405 to be brought into contact with 405-1. 405-1 are to receive limited human contact from doctors blank and blank, and only while the doctors have been dosed with type 3 sedatives. One are housed in blank adjoining 10 by 10 by 10 meter cells and are not considered an escape risk. The research facility's remote location is for their benefit, not ours. SCP-405 is a contagious phenomenon of unknown origin that causes the uncontrolled development of telepathic capabilities in humans. The typical progression of the disease is as follows. 0 to 2 days after exposure, no noticeable effect. 2 to 7 days after exposure, subject begins to hear higher order thoughts of nearby subjects, seemingly at random. Thoughts about the subject are most common. Subjects rarely realize that the heard vocalizations are not spoken. 7 to 10 days after exposure, the subject now hears all conscious thought of nearby individuals. They will become aware of their telepathic nature. In some subjects, thought projection is first observed here. Subjects will usually complain of earache and express a desire for silence. Sleep patterns typically become disrupted due to the perceived noise levels. 10 to 14 days after exposure. Over this period, the range of the subject's abilities increases, typically to about 200 meters, but occasionally far further. In a few rare cases where the subject has pre-existing telepathic capacity, as measured on the McKeevick-Luton scale, range has been shown to grow exponentially out to several kilometers, leading to the early onset of terminal stage. Subject hears all conscious thoughts of humans within this range as loudly as if the individual were speaking directly in the subject's ear. The first suicide attempts typically occur at this point as a result of sleep deprivation and perceived noise levels. Subject also begins to uncontrollably project their thoughts to nearby individuals. MRI scans taken at this stage indicate severe significant deformities in the audio cortex. 14 to 28 days after exposure, no noticeable change in symptoms is evident at first, although many subjects begin to detect unconscious thoughts towards the end of this phase, including autonomic responses and reflex actions. Subjects typically exhibit a wide range of dementia, such as redacted, consistent with sensory overstimulation and sleep deprivation by this stage, and most %, attempt suicide, often frequently and with increasing levels of creativity and desperation. Restrained subjects will typically beg for termination or other extreme measures. One agent at this stage requested being used to examine SCP-blank, normally reserved for D-Class personnel. To date, all subjects have been observed to attempt to deafen themselves if able, most commonly by inserting a long, thin object, such as a pen, into their ears until the internal structure is destroyed. Towards the end of this phase, subjects often experience catatonic episodes and begin to suffer from seizures. These are not apparently related to the telepathic abilities, but rather due to the swelling in the subject's neural tissues. 28 days after exposure until death, typically 32 days after exposure. Subjects slip into a coma and begin to suffer from persistent seizures caused by significant brain deformities. MRI scans taken at this stage confirm audio cortex is still processing vast quantities of data. Experiments with animals, including higher primates, confirm that 405 is species-specific. The vector for 405 is the subject's final mental vocalization, identified by most observers as a death scream. This vocalization occurs at the moment of death regardless of cause and has a range of at least 200 meters, although the more advanced the disease, the greater the range. Individuals who hear this telepathic signal are infected with 405. Outbreaks of 405 appear spontaneously. There have been at least blank in recorded history. The ultimate cause of these outbreaks is unknown. The earliest believed 405 outbreak was in the town of blank, a famous ghost town in blank. The entire population was recorded to have died either by their own hands or at the hands of deranged residents. Written records retrieved from blank are consistent with the symptoms of 405. The cause of SCP-405 outbreaks is unknown, although 79% have been traced to some form of educational facility. Only 2 cases have occurred outside the continental United States. Outbreak blank occurred at blank Canada, and Outbreak blank occurred at blank Wales. Sufferers in the primary to early escalation stages of 405 have been successfully treated with Treatment Protocol 405 Alpha. Subjects are administered twice the standard dose of Class D amnesiacs and placed in a chemically induced coma for 3 days. This appears to reset brain activity to a pre-infection state and allows abnormal development to subside. The success rate is blank %, with greater successes in the early stages. No treatment for the later stages exists. For an examination of disease behavior, please see the infected subject interview log. The use of Type 3 disaster synthesis quarantine measures are preemptively approved to contain large-scale 405 outbreaks. To date, only blank individuals have recovered from 405 naturally. They gain sufficient control of their abilities to deal with small groups of individuals, but are still incapable of dealing with more than blank individuals at a time, without exhibiting extreme stress. Seizures and other neurological conditions caused by structural brain deformities are common. Such individuals are referred to as 1A to 1 blank. They have adopted the designations for themselves and no longer respond to their original identities, perhaps due to the fact that all staff think of them by those designations. The potential value of 1 to the Foundation is unclear at this time. Addendum 1. Storing SCP-4051 in the same area was a bad idea. I'm sure their personalities are gestalting. I observed 1 blank tapping the desk in her room yesterday in a manner consistent with playing the piano, but only 1 blank has any musical talent. Worse, SCP-4051 blank reported finding himself performing an action unconsciously and wished to know if I recognized it. 1 blank was unconsciously field stripping an imaginary blank. None of them have military backgrounds, they picked that up from us! If you get any more survivors, don't send them here! All interviews with 405 victims or SCP-4051 are to be recorded in interviews log 405. So, that about does it for this episode. In the next one we're going to be doing, starting with the Sleepwalker's Tunnel and moving through Editor Beetles. So this has been Anasha Sasuke. This was episode 96 of Let's Read the SCP Foundation Wiki. If you liked it, a like and a subscribe will be groovy. If you didn't, you need to do either one of those things, and I will see you in the next one. Later.